The grand hall of the Stellar Dominion's central palace gleamed with crystalline lights, casting rainbow patterns across the assembled delegates. Queen Alta sat on her floating throne, her iridescent scales shifting colors as she observed the human delegation approaching. This was the 10th species her people had encountered, but something about these humans intrigued her more than any other. The human ambassador walked forward with steady steps, carrying the simple wooden box, a gesture that made several council members whisper in confusion. In a society where everything was digital or telepathically shared, physical objects were considered primitively charming. "Your Majesty," the lead human, Tom, spoke clearly. "As is customary during first contact, we bring gifts from Earth and her colonies." He opened the box, revealing not advanced technology or rare minerals, but books. Real, paper books, their pages yellowed with age. Queen Alta leaned forward, her 4 eyes widening with interest. "These are your information storage devices," she asked, her translator converting her musical language into standard human English. "These are some of our oldest stories," Tom explained, lifting out a leather-bound volume. "We thought you might appreciate seeing how we preserve knowledge before digital storage." The Queen's attendants expected her to show polite interest and move on to the more substantial diplomatic matters. Instead, she rose from her throne, an action that hadn't occurred during a first contact ceremony in over 300 years. "May I?" she asked, her scaled hands reaching for the book. Tom handed it to her carefully, and the hall fell silent as she opened it. The book was a collection of human survival stories, tales of people overcoming impossible odds. For the next hour, the Queen stood there, reading. Her council grew increasingly uncomfortable, but none dared interrupt. She read about a man who had cut off his own arm to escape death in a canyon, about a woman who survived 3 weeks in the Arctic with nothing but basic supplies, about children who escaped natural disasters through quick thinking and determination. Finally, she looked up. Her scales had shifted to a deep blue, a sign of deep emotional impact in her species. These are true stories?" she asked. "Yes, Your Majesty," Tom confirmed. "These are documented cases of human survival." Queen Alta turned to her council. "In all our years of space exploration, have we encountered anything like this? Not the primitive storage medium, the content. These beings, they don't rely on technology or inherent abilities. They simply refuse to die. They adapt. They survive." The council had no answer. Their species, like most advanced civilizations, had evolved past the need for such desperate measures. Everything was solved through technology or avoided through careful planning. "Ambassador Tom," the Queen's voice carried across the hall, "I understand it is customary for us to offer your people gifts in return. Advanced medical technology, faster-than-light drive improvements, energy generation solutions." "Yes, Your Majesty, that is the usual protocol." "I reject this protocol." Her announcement caused gasps among both humans and her own people. "Instead, I have one request." She held up the book. "I want more of these, not just survival stories. All of them. Stories of human persistence, determination, and survival against impossible odds. Your fiction, your histories, your legends." Tom blinked in surprise. "You want our stories, instead of technological advancements. Technology can be developed, Ambassador. But this," she gestured to the book, "this is something unique to your species. This determination, this refusal to submit to fate, it is more valuable than any technology." The human delegation exchanged glances, unsure how to handle this unprecedented request. Their carefully prepared diplomatic protocols hadn't covered a scenario where an advanced alien species would prefer their stories to their technology. As the first day of diplomatic contact drew to a close, word spread through both human and alien communications channels. The mighty Queen of the Stellar Dominion, ruler of 1,000 worlds, had asked for nothing but human stories. Nobody quite understood why. except the queen herself, who stayed up all night reading tales of human courage, determination, and survival, her scales shifting through colors of wonder and amazement. The first contact had gone nothing like either side expected, but it had set the stage for something far more significant than a mere exchange of technologies. Back on Earth, in the United Nations Space Command Headquarters, Tom sat at a massive oval table surrounded by bewildered officials. The holographic display showed Queen Alta's request playing on repeat. "I want your stories. All of them." "This has to be some kind of trick," said one official, running his hand through his graying hair. "Advanced species don't just ask for stories. They want resources, technology exchanges, military alliances." Tom shook his head. "I was there. The Queen's emotional readings were genuine. Their species can't fake their color changes. It's a biological response. She was truly moved by those simple survival stories we brought." The room buzzed with conversations until Director Bill stepped in, his weathered face serious. "The Queen has sent another transmission. Playing it now." Queen Alta's image appeared above the table, her scales a gentle shade of blue. "To my human friends, I must clarify my request. While your digital libraries are impressive, I seek something more personal. I want the stories that haven't been written yet, the tales your people tell each other over meals, the memories passed down in families, the moments where your species showed its true strength." The officials exchanged glances. One of them spoke up. "She wants oral histories." "Not just any oral histories," Tom replied, standing up. "She wants stories that show our resilience. Think about it. They're a species that solved every problem with technology. The concept of overcoming challenges through sheer willpower is alien to them." Director Bill nodded slowly. "So how do we gather these stories? We can't just send out a galaxy-wide email asking for people's personal tales of determination." "Actually," Tom said, "that's exactly what we should do." The next week, the announcement went out to every human settlement, colony, and space station. "Share your story. The Stellar Dominion wants to know what makes humans strong." The response was overwhelming. Stories flooded in from everywhere. A miner who survived a cave-in on Mars by digging for 3 days straight with broken tools. A colony ship pilot who manually navigated through an asteroid field when all systems failed. A teacher who kept 30 students alive during a station decompression by using nothing but classroom supplies to seal the breach. In her palace, Queen Alta received the first batch of new stories. Her council watched with growing concern as she spent hours absorbing each tale, her scales shifting through colors they hadn't seen in years. "My queen," one advisor dared to speak, "surely these primitive accounts can't be worth more than their advanced drive systems." The queen turned to him, her scales now a deep purple of conviction. "You still don't understand. Look at this one. A human child lost both legs in an accident, yet refused cybernetic replacements. Instead, they learned to run on prosthetic blades and broke athletic records. They didn't solve the problem with technology. They adapted themselves to overcome it." She brought up another story. "Or this one. A colony facing certain death from crop failure. Instead of requesting emergency supplies, they developed new farming techniques through trial and error, creating methods we'd never considered because we relied too heavily on automation." Tom received the Queen's response to the first batch. "More. Please send more. But not just the spectacular saves or the dramatic rescues. Send me the small victories too. The everyday persistence. The moments where humans simply refused to give up when giving up would have been easier." As he drafted the new request, Tom finally understood. The Queen hadn't rejected their technological offerings out of disrespect or trickery. She had recognized something her advanced civilization had lost: the raw, unrelenting spirit of a species that evolved by overcoming challenges rather than avoiding them. The story collection project was officially named Operation Human Spirit, and as more tales poured in, nobody realized they were participating in the most important cultural exchange in human history. They were just doing what humans had always done: sharing stories of how they survived, persisted, and triumphed, one impossible challenge at a time. The newly formed Story Collection Agency took over an entire floor of the United Nations building in New York. Mary, the lead archivist, stood before a wall of holographic screens displaying incoming stories from across human space. Her team of 50 worked around the clock, sorting through millions of submissions. "We've got another batch from the Mars colonies," called out Jack, one of the junior archivists. "This one's interesting. A whole community survived a dust storm by creating an underground network of tunnels using only hand tools after their power failed." Mary walked over to his station, reading through the account. "The Queen will love this one. It shows collective human determination. Add it to the priority queue." The collection process had taken on a life of its own. What started as a simple request had evolved into something bigger. Humans from every corner of settled space wanted their stories heard, not just by the alien queen, but by everyone. "Look at this," called another archivist, pointing to her screen. A deep space maintenance worker trapped outside their station during a solar flare. Instead of waiting for rescue, they used their magnetic boots to walk across the station's hull for 6 hours to reach an emergency airlock. The radiation exposure nearly killed them, but they made it. Mary nodded approvingly. "That's exactly what the Queen is looking for. Stories where humans choose the hard way because it's the only way." The team had developed a system for categorizing the stories: survival against nature, technical innovation under pressure, medical miracles, community resilience, and personal triumph. Each category revealed a different facet of human determination. As they worked, patterns emerged. Humans didn't just survive, they found ways to thrive in the aftermath of disaster. A colony that lost its water purification system didn't just survive until help arrived. They developed new filtration techniques that were now used across 3 systems. "Mary," Jack called out urgently, "you need to see this transmission from the Queen." The team gathered around as Queen Alta's image appeared. Her scales shimmered with excitement as she spoke. "My dear human friends, these stories, they're changing us. My people have started asking questions we've never asked before. Instead of automatically reaching for technological solutions, they're beginning to ask, what would a human do?" The archivists exchanged proud glances. Their work was having an impact none of them had expected. But the most surprising stories weren't the dramatic tales of space rescue or colony survival. They were the quiet stories of everyday persistence. Students working 3 jobs to finish their education, parents walking miles through storms to reach their children, elderly people refusing to give up their independence despite disabilities. "We need to send more of these," Mary decided, pointing to a particular collection. "The Queen needs to understand that human determination isn't just about the big moments. It's about getting up every day and facing whatever challenges come our way." As they worked late into the night, a message arrived from a small mining outpost on Europa. The entire colony had gathered to share their stories, not of their biggest triumphs, but of their daily struggles and small victories. They spoke of fixing equipment with makeshift tools, of maintaining morale during the long dark seasons, of creating art and music with salvaged materials. "This is perfect," Mary said, reading through the accounts. "It shows how humanity doesn't just survive. We find ways to make life worth living, no matter the circumstances." The team worked through the night, carefully compiling and categorizing the stories. They weren't just collecting tales anymore. They were creating a testament to human spirit and determination that would be preserved in alien archives for centuries to come. As the sun rose over New York, Mary looked at her tired but satisfied team. "You know," she said, "we're making history here. Not with grand technological achievements or military victories, but with stories. Our stories. And somehow that feels more important than any other first contact gift we could have given them." The archivists nodded in agreement, knowing that each story they processed was another thread in the tapestry of human experience they were sharing with the stars. The grand amphitheater of the Stellar Dominion's palace had never been so full. Thousands of alien dignitaries sat in concentric rings, their attention focused on the central platform where a simple wooden podium stood. Queen Alta sat in her ceremonial position, her scales shifting with anticipation. "Welcome," her voice carried across the vast space, "to the first reading of human tales." She gestured to the 5 humans who stood beside the podium, each chosen to share their story in person. The first speaker was an old man with weathered hands. He walked to the podium without any technological assistance, a sight that made many aliens murmur in confusion. In their society, no one his age would choose to walk when hovering chairs were available. "My name is Robert," he began, "and this is the story of how I survived 40 days in the Amazon rainforest after our research station was destroyed by a flood." His voice was steady as he described eating insects to survive, making tools from broken equipment, and refusing to give up even when rescue seemed impossible. The alien audience sat in stunned silence. Their environmental suits and emergency beacons made such situations impossible for them. The concept of surviving through pure resourcefulness was foreign and fascinating. Next came Lisa, a colony ship engineer. She told of how she kept 300 passengers alive when their life support systems failed mid-journey. "We had no spare parts," she explained, "so we rebuilt the filters using clothing fibers and recycled plastic. Everyone donated their clothes. We wore thermal blankets for 2 weeks, but not a single life was lost." Queen Alta's scales turned a deep gold, a sign of profound respect. Her council members were showing similar signs of amazement. The third speaker was a young man named Mike, who had lost both arms in an accident. Instead of accepting the latest prosthetics, he learned to paint with his feet and now created artwork that sold for millions. "The doctors said I needed artificial arms to live a normal life," he said, "but I wanted to prove that humans can adapt without always relying on technology." Some aliens actually left their seats to get a closer look at his artwork, displayed on floating screens. They couldn't comprehend choosing a harder path when an easier one was available. The fourth story came from Bill, a deep space miner. He described how his team survived a month-long solar storm by taking shelter in an abandoned asteroid mine. "We didn't just survive," he said proudly. "We established a new mining technique that's now standard practice. Sometimes the worst situations bring out our best innovations." But it was the final speaker who left the most lasting impression. An elderly woman named Anna stepped forward, her voice soft but clear. She told no tale of dramatic survival or incredible innovation. Instead, she spoke of raising 6 children alone after her partner died, working 3 jobs, never missing a single one of their events or needs. "This," Queen Alta interrupted, rising from her throne, "this is what I wanted my people to understand." Her scales had turned a brilliant white, a color none of her attendants had ever seen before. The human spirit shows itself not just in grand moments of survival, but in the quiet persistence of everyday life. The alien audience had stopped taking notes or recording. They simply listened, captivated by these stories of human determination. Some of their color patterns showed signs of emotional responses they hadn't experienced in generations. As the session ended, Queen Alta made an unprecedented announcement. "From this day forward, these reading sessions will be held regularly. We have much to learn from these humans, not about technology or science, but about the power of unwavering spirit." The human speakers were surrounded by curious aliens, all asking questions about how it felt to face such challenges without relying on advanced solutions. The humans answered patiently, trying to explain concepts like gut instinct and refusing to give up to beings who had evolved past the need for such traits. As the grand hall slowly emptied, Queen Alta approached the speakers personally. Another unprecedented action. "Your stories," she said, her scales still shimmering white, "have begun a change in my people that I never thought possible. You've reminded us of something we lost in our rush to solve everything with technology: the strength that comes from facing challenges head-on." Change swept through the stellar dominion like a quiet storm. 3 months after the first reading, strange reports began filtering in from various worlds. Alien youth were deliberately disabling their automated systems to try things the human way. In the capital city, Queen Alta sat in her private chamber, watching news feeds from across her realm. A group of young aliens had scaled a mountain using only basic equipment, refusing the standard anti-gravity assists. They'd failed twice before reaching the summit, but their joy upon succeeding had caused a sensation across the networks. "It's spreading faster than we anticipated," observed her chief advisor, his scales showing concern. "The younger generation is particularly affected. They're calling it the human approach movement." The Queen's scales rippled with amusement. "Show me more reports." Images flowed across the screens. Alien scientists choosing to conduct experiments manually instead of relying on AI simulations. Students in learning centers requesting physical books alongside their neural downloads. A farming colony that had voluntarily powered down their automated systems to experiment with traditional growing methods. "There's more," the advisor continued. "The military academy's latest training programs now include scenarios where cadets must solve problems without technological assistance. They're calling it human thinking training." A message flashed across the screens, another transmission from Earth. Tom's face appeared, looking both pleased and slightly concerned. "Your Majesty, we've received hundreds of requests from your people asking to visit Earth and experience our primitive conditions firsthand. They want to understand how we live with such limited automation." The Queen's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. "Approve them all," she decided. "But first, show them the story about the human family that chose to live off-grid in the mountains. They should understand what they're asking for." Throughout the Dominion, the changes continued. Restaurants began offering human-style cooking, where patrons prepared their own meals. Entertainment centers created programs that simulated human survival scenarios. Children started playing games that required physical effort instead of just mental engagement. But the most profound changes were happening in unexpected places. The Dominion's renowned problem-solving institutes, which had long relied on quantum computers and AI systems, began incorporating what they termed human intuition protocols. They discovered that sometimes the unpredictable human approach led to solutions their advanced systems had never considered. "My Queen," called another advisor, rushing in. "You need to see this." He projected an image of a distant colony world where a major factory had suffered a catastrophic system failure. Instead of waiting for the automated repair systems, the workers had improvised repairs using basic tools and materials at hand. They'd kept production running at 60% capacity through sheer determination and creativity. Queen Alta's scales turned to a deep purple of satisfaction. "Don't you see? This is exactly what I hoped would happen. We didn't just receive stories. We received a new way of thinking." The council chamber was soon filled with more reports. A medical team that had successfully performed surgery during a power outage using only basic tools. A space station crew that had repaired a hull breach using materials from their own living quarters. Each story showed how the Dominion's people were rediscovering capabilities they'd forgotten they had. "The humans didn't just give us their stories," the Queen declared to her assembled advisors. "They showed us what we lost in our rush to automate everything. We forgot that sometimes the best solutions come from necessity and determination, not from perfect technology." As night fell over the capital, Queen Alta received one final report. A group of young aliens had established what they called a Human Challenge Center, a facility where people could voluntarily experience life without advanced technology. The waiting list was already thousands of names long. The Queen's scales shifted to a color that combined pride and amusement. In seeking to understand humans through their stories, her people had begun to rediscover their own capacity for resilience and innovation. It wasn't a rejection of their advanced technology, but rather a reawakening of abilities that had lain dormant for generations. Alarms blared throughout the Stellar Dominion's Central Command Center. Emergency signals flashed across massive screens, showing a growing gravitational anomaly threatening 3 heavily populated systems. The automated defense systems, for the first time in recorded history, had failed to contain the threat. Queen Alta stood before her council, her scales a deep red of emergency. The anomaly is expanding exponentially. Our predictive models show total system collapse within 72 hours. All technological solutions have failed. The council chamber erupted in panic until a young advisor stepped forward. Your Majesty, perhaps we should try the human approach. Silence fell across the chamber. The Queen's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. Contact Earth immediately. Within hours, a joint emergency response team assembled. The humans arrived in simple ships that made the Dominion's engineers wince, but they brought something more valuable than advanced technology: experience in handling impossible situations. The gravitational anomaly is similar to what we faced in the Proxima incident, explained Commander Pete, pointing to a holographic display. We couldn't stop it with technology either, but we found a way around it. The alien scientists watched in disbelief as the humans proposed what seemed like a suicidal plan. Instead of trying to contain the anomaly with energy fields, they suggested using its own force against it, deliberately triggering controlled collapses at specific points to create a cascade effect. This is madness, protested one alien scientist. The calculations would need to be perfect. One mistake, and we lose everything. That's why we won't rely on computers, Pete replied. We'll do this manually. Humans can sense patterns that machines sometimes miss. We've done this before with less time and fewer resources. Queen Alta's scales turned silver, the color of decisive action. Give them full authority. All resources are at your disposal, Commander. What followed was unlike anything the Dominion had ever seen. Human pilots flew manually into the anomaly's edge, placing disruption charges by sight and instinct rather than computer guidance. Engineers worked with basic tools, modifying equipment on the fly when standard solutions failed. The aliens watched in amazement as the humans worked in organized chaos, shouting instructions, making split-second decisions, and somehow maintaining order in the midst of disaster. They were using the Dominion's advanced technology, but in ways its creators had never imagined. At the critical moment, when the main charge needed to be placed at the anomaly's core, the automated delivery systems failed. Without hesitation, a human pilot named Jack volunteered to fly in manually. The radiation will fry your nervous system, warned an alien medical officer. Then I better do this quickly, Jack replied with a grim smile, launching his ship before anyone could stop him. The entire command center watched as the small ship disappeared into the swirling vortex of the anomaly. For 3 minutes, there was no contact. Then a weak signal came through. Charge placed. You might want to step back a bit. The resulting cascade was exactly as the humans had predicted. The anomaly collapsed in on itself. The gravitational forces channeled and dispersed harmlessly into space. 3 systems and billions of lives had been saved, not by superior technology, but by human ingenuity and courage. In the aftermath, as medical teams treated the survivors, Queen Alta addressed her people. Today we witnessed something extraordinary. When our most advanced systems failed, when our perfect technology proved inadequate, it was human determination that saved us. They succeeded not because they had better tools, but because they never accepted failure as an option. The rescue operation became known across the Dominion as the human miracle, but the humans who had participated simply shrugged off the praise. To them, it was just another day of doing what humans do best, finding a way through when no way exists. As the emergency teams began their return journey to Earth, Queen Alta made a declaration that would change the Dominion forever. From this day forward, all our emergency response teams will include human advisors. Some problems require more than perfect technology. They require the human spirit. 5 years after the first human stories reached the stellar Dominion, the grand opening of the Library of Human Spirit drew visitors from across the galaxy. The building itself was a testament to the changes that had swept through alien society. constructed using both advanced technology and traditional human building methods. Queen Alta stood at the entrance, her scales shimmering with all the colors she had displayed while reading human stories over the years. The massive doors were deliberately manual, requiring physical effort to open, a symbolic gesture that made many aliens smile in understanding. "Welcome," she announced to the gathered crowd, "to a place that honors not just human stories, but the very essence of determination itself." Inside, the library was a blend of old and new. Physical books sat alongside holographic displays. The central chamber housed the original leather-bound volume that had started it all, the simple book of survival stories from the first contact. Tom, now the senior human ambassador, walked through the halls with the Queen, observing how the Dominion had changed. Young aliens sat on floors reading physical books, something unthinkable 5 years ago. Training rooms allowed visitors to experience simulated human challenges, teaching them the value of persistence without technology. "Did you ever imagine it would lead to this?" Tom asked, watching a group of alien children practicing Earth-style rock climbing on a replica wall. The Queen's scales rippled with amusement. "I hoped for understanding. What we received was transformation." Throughout the library, different sections showcased various aspects of human spirit. The survival hall documented tales of endurance against impossible odds. The innovation chamber demonstrated how humans had turned disasters into opportunities for growth. The daily persistence gallery honored the quiet heroes who faced life's challenges without fanfare. But the most popular section was the new interactive wing, where aliens could temporarily disable their technological enhancements and attempt tasks as humans would. The waiting list for these experiences stretched months long. "We've received reports from across the Dominion," reported a council member, approaching the Queen. "Colonies that have adopted human problem-solving methods show a 40% increase in innovation. Our military academy graduates are more adaptable than ever. Even our artists are experimenting with manual creation methods." The Queen nodded, her scales turning a deep gold of satisfaction. "But the greatest change isn't in our achievements," she said. "It's in our understanding of strength. We learned that true power lies not in avoiding challenges, but in facing them." As evening approached, the library hosted its first official reading. But this time, it wasn't humans sharing their stories. Young aliens stepped forward to tell tales of how they had faced their own challenges, inspired by the human examples they had studied. One spoke of recovering from injury without using rapid healing technology, choosing instead to build strength slowly. Another described leading a research team that chose to live without automation for a year, leading to breakthrough discoveries in environmental adaptation. Tom watched in amazement as the aliens shared their stories, each one reflecting a perfect blend of their advanced civilization and newly discovered human-like resilience. "Your stories changed us," Queen Alta said to him quietly, "not by making us abandon our technology, but by teaching us that the greatest tool any species can possess is the determination to keep going when everything seems impossible." The library became more than just a collection of human tales. It grew into a living testament to the power of shared experience across species. Every day, new stories were added, both human and alien, creating a growing chronicle of determination and spirit. As night fell on the opening day, Queen Alta made one final announcement. "Let this library stand as a reminder that the greatest gift one species can give another is not technology or resources, but inspiration. The human spirit, which we once viewed as primitive determination, has proven to be the most advanced force in the universe." The Library of Human Spirit became famous across the galaxy, not as a museum of past achievements, but as a beacon of ongoing inspiration. It stood as proof that sometimes the most valuable exchange between civilizations isn't technology or resources, but the simple, powerful gift of shared stories and unwavering spirit.